Ravda about Iran in the Bible. Prophecies about Iran, and what if I told you that Iran is a modern state? Iran plays a key role in the great biblical narrative, with prophecies and world events often focusing on Israel, Egypt, and Babylon. But what if I said that Iran, known as Persia in biblical times, was not just another empire but a nation specifically mentioned in prophecies to shape the fate of a chosen people? The Bible's origin story of Iran is more exciting than you can imagine. From the descendants of Noah to the reign of Cyrus the Great, the history of Iranians is intertwined with some of the most decisive moments in biblical history. But the most surprising revelation is that God used Persia, a nation of pagan kings, to liberate Israel and restore the temple, fulfilling prophecies spoken before their fulfillment. In this video, we will explore how Iran's history shaped the events of the Bible and how it continues to influence the world today. The Bible reveals the origins of the Iranian people and their rise to power, as well as their central role in shaping both the Old Testament and the prophetic visions of the future. I know that your perception of Iran may not only be as a modern nation, but also as a key participant in God's plan. To understand the biblical roots of Iran, we need to go back to the story of Noah and his descendants. After the Great Flood, 3 sons of Noah, Sem, Ham, and Japheth, became the ancestors of all the peoples of the earth. According to the Table of Nations in the book of Genesis, one of Japheth's sons, Madai, was the ancestor of the Medes, who later became closely associated with the Persians. Together, they formed the basis of the Medo-Persian Empire, one of the most powerful empires in world history. The descendants of Meda settled in the region that later became modern Iran, while the Persians, coming from the same geographical area, later achieved great success. Greatness, but both groups have common Iranian roots according to the Bible. The ancestors of Iranians descended from Japhet, who inscribed the Iranian people into the biblical narrative from the very beginning of history, after the flood. This connection connects the Iranian people with one of the oldest bloodlines in the Bible and prepares the basis for their significant role in history. Several centuries later, we find the rise of Persia, a kingdom that would play a decisive role in the biblical narrative. Under the leadership of Cyrus, the Medes and Persians united to form the great empire known as the First Persian Empire. At its peak, the Persian Empire extended from the Indus River to North Africa, covering many regions mentioned in the Bible, including Israel, Babylon, and Egypt. However, Persia's influence extended far beyond its military and territorial power. Its culture, religion, and governance left a lasting impact on the world. The importance of this event lies in how God used it to fulfill his promises to the Israelites in Babylon. The empire under King Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem, and in 586 BC, she destroyed the temple and led the people of Judah into captivity. The Israelites remained in captivity for 70 years, as Jeremiah had predicted. Then, Cyrus the Great, a Persian king, conquered Babylon in 539 BC. With his arrival, everything changed. The book of Ezra begins with the decree of Cyrus, allowing the Israelites to return and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. This event is recorded in Ezra 1 verse 14, where Cyrus declared that the Lord God of heaven had given him all the kingdoms of the earth and commanded him to build a temple for him in Jerusalem. Cyrus, the pagan king, was called by the prophet Isaiah, more than a century before, as the one who would fulfill God's will to restore Israel, Isaiah 44 verse 28. 451. In one of the most significant moments in biblical history, Persia, a nation not in covenant with God, played a crucial role in the salvation of his people. This was a turning point for Israel and highlighted the importance of Persia's role in God's plan. One of the most notable aspects of Persia's biblical legacy is the role of Cyrus the Great. In Isaiah 45 verse 1, God calls Cyrus by name more than 150 years before his birth. He is referred to as my shepherd and the anointed, a title usually reserved for the kings of Israel. Cyrus is even called the anointed of God, demonstrating God's sovereignty and ability to use anyone, even those not part of the covenant people, to fulfill his will. Cyrus' decree allowing the Jews to return and rebuild the temple is evidence of this. Just a political decision, but a prophetic fulfillment. The prophet Jeremiah predicted that the Babylonian captivity would last 70 years, Jeremiah 25 verses 11 to 12. This period ended with the restoration of the temple in Jerusalem under the leadership of Zerubbabel with the blessing of Cyrus. This was a key step in the restoration. God used Persia not only to defeat Babylon, an oppressive nation, but also to promote the rebirth of Israel as a nation. This is for Israel, and God's plan is much larger than any empire. He can use even the most unexpected figures to fulfill his intentions. The role of Persia in biblical history does not end with Cyrus. The restoration of the temple, as described in the book of Ezra, provides another powerful example of how God used Persia to protect his people during the reign of Xerxes I, also known as Ahasuerus in the Bible. This was during the plot of Haman, a Persian court official. To destroy the Jews living there, however, through divine providence, a young Jewish woman named Esther became a queen. Inspired by her uncle Mordecai, Esther took a bold and dangerous step by turning to the king and revealing her Jewish identity, begging to save her people. She was known as Esther 4:14 from Marche to Ephra, who knows if you have achieved such a time of dignity. The royal intervention of King Xerxes led to a dramatic turn of events. Upon learning of Haman's betrayal, he ordered his execution and issued a new decree allowing Jews to defend themselves from their enemies. This story is recorded in the Research Institute during the reign of Persia and particularly Queen Esther for the salvation of the Jewish people. The story of Esther is an example of divine providence and protection. Once again, Persia, although it was a foreign empire, became an instrument through which God's people were saved. The guiding hand of God was evident throughout this story, using the Persian Empire as a backdrop for this miraculous liberation of the Jews from extermination. Persia was not just a passive observer, but an active participant in ensuring the survival of the Jewish people. The Bible speaks not only about the role of Persia in history, but also places Persia at the center of prophetic visions regarding the future of world empires and God's ultimate plan for humanity. So, in a biblical context, the legacy of Persia reminds us that no matter how unlikely it may seem, any nation can play a role in fulfilling God's plan.